Hello and welcome. My name is Jessica Haynes.
And I'm Emma Jackson.
And we are here to introduce you to season 3 of our podcast.
Season 3. Woo-hoo. First episode.
I know. So if you joined us over the summer, which obviously you did because we're awesome, we did a little bit of something to kind of just a little bit of a teaser and a taster to get back into the swing of the autumn. And we gave you some hints and tips about what was going on here. So we're here, we are ready, and we are all full of the fantasy. Join us.
Yeah. So what are we gonna? I suppose we should give a little intro about what we're going to be talking about in episode 1. We will have done a trailer. We will have done it. We haven't done it yet. This is the magic of pre-recording.
Yes.
We will have done a trailer to explain what's happening in this series. And this episode, we're talking about gateway romances, fantasy romances.
How it all started.
Yeah, where it began for us, the books that were like, oh yeah, this is for me and I want to find more of it.
Yeah, floodgates.
And that's what's going to be a bit different about this season, is because it's going to be like a separate choices.
Yeah, it's gonna, yeah. I think you'll see a bit more of where our foul little minds work in our choices of this.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm really excited about it because it's like I love doing the other seasons where we've decided together and we see where our taste crosses over. But I think it's going to be really good seeing like the different sides of the diagram, the Venn diagram.
Yeah, the Venn diagram where we actually meet.
Circle, what's in my circle, and where they overlap.
Tiny little in the middle.
Yeah,
but it is. When I saw your list, I was quite surprised that there weren't as many that I would have read and would have been in my list. So it's really, yeah.
I think it's the same with yours. I think I've only got a couple that I've already read, other than ones that you've recommended me since we've been doing the podcast. So, but it does make sense in a way. But yeah, it's going to be cool. So yeah, we'll start talking to you about that.
Yeah.
After
Are we ready? Are we steady?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, so we're here for the meat of the show. We've done the taster, the appetizer. I know I've already said something that's going to make you laugh.
We've been through all the crudites before we've even started this. We're already, we've had pudding as well. This is second.
We put the crude in Crudites. Possible title for the show.
There we go. It is now. That's it. It has nothing to do with what we're reading, but tough.
That's what it's going to be called.
Mm-hmm.
So what got you into fantasy romance, Jess? Where did you start out? What were you reading a lot before you got into fantasy romance, or
no, not at all?
Oh, okay.
We're not a big ready family. So my book experience was from my mum's sister. She's got 2 of them, so I will specify. My mum's the oldest, so the next one down, Mandy. And whenever we'd go, she had a bookshelf, and she was horror and crime and the murdery kind of thing. So I knew about like the Zodiac Killer and Charles Manson and that kind of stuff as a young age. So my first introduction was like Cujo and It in my repertoire at the begining, and then point horror when I kind of got a little bit older and picked up books, as we've done before.
Strange to go.
I went backwards.
Cujo, point horror.
Don't even start me on the clown thing. I can't be doing with clowns. But so that was kind of my gateway, and we never really had books. But then I was kind of one of these people that I don't think people would hate, but I found Twilight and I read that.
Yeah.
And I went through all those books and it was like, oh, this is quite interesting. I do all this. And I didn't do Harry Potter to start with. I know a lot of people did, but I never really kind of touched that. I did Twilight and then stepped away from it all. And then I watched The Avengers and I really got into fan fiction with Loki and Thor. And that was that's when I started writing more.
Cool.
Weirdly. And then so really got into fanfic.net and what was it called? AO3 or whatever it was, and doing all of that sort of stuff. so I dabbled and just went through notebooks and
Okay, that's interesting, because it's kind of like I've always been a reader.
Well, it's like you were the beginning.
You were little bookwormy person. I mean, neither of my parents were really readers. My dad's more of a reader now, because I keep buying him books and he enjoys them. He's retired.
You will read. You will.
Yeah. But he used to encourage me, and he would buy me like secondhand books on his way home from work, which again, weird reading at like teenage levels. It was like I'd done point horror and I needed to move on from something. And I did like all of Agatha Christie.
Yes.
Like I went through everything Agatha Christie at my library. And then he would buy me like spy thrillers and things like that.
Nice.
Like Alistair MacLean ones and things like that. Or MacLean, I can't remember how you say it.
Like John McClane, like Die Hard.
Yeah, that's it, MacLean. Yeah, so I went from that, and then like it's what you read at school. I think like in secondary school you kind of get taken over just by what you have to read, don't you? In terms of, set text and things. But I was like really geeky because I quite enjoyed them.
I didn't enjoy mine.
Yeah. And then leaving school, it was more sporadic, and I'd just go and like pick like literary things, and I might find some that I like and then others that I didn't particularly. So it was like kind of really slow for me to realise that I was starting to try and find books that had romance in
where
them.
it was.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was Twilight. So I like, the film came out, because I was quite slow to it. The film came out and I kept seeing the trailer and I was like, looks interesting. Everybody's talking about it. I've got the book and I read it and I was like, this is fun. I really like it. I love like the rush of it and stuff. Obviously everybody has opinions on Twilight, but just for the pure girl having a crush on someone type thing, it was fun. But with vampires too.
Yeah, and then the werewolves come in and
and that kind of got me into YA. So I would read YA fantasy, and I did like, and there were so many, and not that there aren't good ones now, but I don't really read it now, but there were amazing YA coming out at that time. That was like, obviously there was Hunger Games, then there was, what else did I read? I did like the City of Bones stuff, any Maggie Stiefwater stuff. There was Brenna Yanov, The Winner's Curse, Lunar Chronicles, all of those ones. And that kind of got me really realizing that it was like, I want the fantasy or the sci-fi adventure and intrigue and plot, but I just always wanted to have that
extra in it.
Yeah, that romance subplot at least.
Yeah.
Before I then found a couple of adult,
the good stuff.
Yeah, I got recommended them, my first ones, because I used to spend time on Goodreads. It's a scary place for me now. I don't go there now, but I was like in a couple of forums, and we did like challenges for each other where people recommended like their favorite books for, I think it was like 5 favorites, and we all swapped.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, and 2 of them, the 2 that I'm going to talk about today, were from that. Yeah.
Okay. So my 2 came from the library here. So we moved here when I was up the duff with the youngest, and then I had him. I'm pregnant, if that doesn't translate to other countries.
I don't know if they use that anywhere else.
I have no idea what it means. Yeah, I was pregnant with my youngest, and the elder 2 were going to school, and I found the library, and I went and spoke to the librarian, and she kind of a closet moment of, come with me. And she gave me a pile
the good stuff
of things. Yeah. So she get the 2 that I've got that kind of really did it for me were in that pile. So
do you want to reveal what are your titles?
Well, are we going for both, or are we going to have a main and a second?
Do you want to do that? You want to speak about one that's a main one, and then like additional?
Well, my main one was my main one was, it was Dark Skye by Kresley Cole.
Okay.
And it had the dude on the cover, and he had the lightning wings, and I was like, ooh, what's this then? Like, look at this.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was it. And there was a few others, and I took it home, and that one was on the top, and I went through it, and it was really weird. Again, as we were chatting about earlier, it kind of jumped straight in to loads of stuff going on. And I didn't realize at the time that it was like number however many in the series.
Oh, right.
So I came in at mid-series in this world and thinking, Jesus, there's so much going on and so many people. And it was just, and then, lost.
Yeah. So is that the Immortals After Dark series?
Yeah, so it's the Immortals After Dark, and it was, I did write down book 15, it was 15.
Yes.
I know, it feels so
Did you
dirty.
go straight back to 1 when you realised?
This is it, and I went in, because if you know the series, I know you're not as au fait as me, they start in, depends how much detail you want me to go into here, but they start in like an underground place, in like a facility. And then when you read the books before, you realise what the hell is happening in this facility. So this book starts with them breaking out of a facility. And it's like...
Is that the Warrior Wants Forever, or the Warlord Wants Forever? Is that the first one?
No, that's like probably 12 or 13 in the very, very beginning.
I thought that was the first one. Oh,
no, loads more happens.
Does she split them? Has she got like different streams of series and then they tie together?
Yes, there's loads of different ones. So there's the Dacians, who are a different set of vampires who are still kind of within the number, the Shadow bits, Shadow's Realm and Shadow's Claim, I think, something like that. And they're kind of another bit. And then, there's the Valkyries are like a big source. And then there's the demons. This was it. There was so much going on with the kings and the Rightrooms and basically. And it's like, what the hell is one of this? Why is this doing this? Why is that doing that? Oh my God, I was getting so high pitched. But what about you? As like, before we get into this hour and 7 billion minutes long episode.
So mine was Untied Kingdom by Kate Johnson, which is completely other end of the spectrum from to
that one.
Paranormal romance in a way, because it was her debut, I believe, and she's a UK author, and I've read quite a few books by her now that I'll probably mention like later on, and she's got something coming out soon. I will do a drop for her. It's called Hex Appeal, and it's coming out this October, so it's probably out now, which is all witchy rom-com goodness. But I haven't read it, but I'm assuming because I've read her other stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff.
And I love witches and rom-com. Just a given. So Untied Kingdom is like a kind of alternative universe portal type thing. So, and it's like dystopia as well. It's quite a mashup of genres. I think the dystopia was probably what I felt most recognition for when I picked it up. Obviously I'd been recommended it and was doing it for a challenge anyway, so I was going to give it a go no matter what, but knowing that it was like a dystopia type thing, like fed into the YA sort of fantasy stuff I've been doing anyway. But it starts with in our universe an old pop star, and she's been in like a band kind of like the Spice Girls, which have ended, and she's now like in quite hard straits, and she's having to do a reality TV show for like has-beens, and part of this is just humiliating herself, and they've sent her off paragliding in London, and she's going like near Tower Bridge and London Bridge and stuff, and she must just go through this portal, and she lands in the river, but she's in the river in an alternative universe where England, the United Kingdom, is like a civil war, and it's like really backwards. It's like it's not developed because they've been at war for so long. They don't understand about our technology. Like I think they've got like 6 computers in the whole country, and there's this whole plot to do with spying on the other side and stuff like that, and it's just funny. The guy on the other side is Major Harker. And he's like a real no nonsense, hard as nails sort of military guy, but he's great. I mean, like it's kind of like the alpha in the way that I like, in that he's got his ex-wife is above him. I think she's a colonel or something, but they still talk, they still get on. It's like like there's none of the obvious evil ex type scenarios and things like that. And he rescues her from the sea, not the sea, the Thames, not the sea. And they think she's a spy. She's either a spy or she's insane. basically.
Which would make sense.
This is the thing. And then they have to go out on this like mission, and she's the only one that can help them because she's been talking about the fact that she knows about, telephones are normal to her, and she understands computers and things. So they're going to use her for this mission and trying to figure out whether or not she's an undercover agent. But they really clash. It's very bantery. It's like funny.
This is it. So when I've gone back through mine, so I haven't fully read it because I know then that I'd go back to number 1 and go again, because that's just how it is with these ones. And I'm kind of like, well, what is it? What drew me in? What kind of made it stand out? And it was stuff like, the banter in this one really just pulled me in. It just, every single thing they said, just I could imagine with my popcorn just watching them talking to each other, and it was just fantastic. And then all the other characters, the side characters, all had so much going to them, and it was just I couldn't find, if I was to pick a fault, I would say it was found too late. I needed to find it years before. I can't they've done it. Obviously there will be bits that people would pick up and point out to me, but I'd say no, I don't care, because it's awesome. It
was just, I think for me, because I'd enjoyed some of that in like YA fantasy and stuff, you get a lot of the same elements, but I think it like tips just slightly more into the romance being the focus, doesn't it? Like it highlights how much of a balance it is between having this driving force of a good plot that's tied into the relationship, but also the relationship being like what you're really invested in as well. Whereas I think like even in YA fantasy that has romance in it, they tend to be a little bit more sprawling, and you have other love interests, and it can move around, and
your love triangle.
It did wound me about love triangles,
which is weird. When you said Twilight, I can imagine that's the worst thing for you.
It was just easy because it was like I was never going to be interested in the werewolves. I'm sorry, I like a werewolf now, but only if I'm like obviously, like if that's what I'm in for. I'm one of those readers that is like the first love interest is the one I get committed to, the first love interest. I don't like it when someone else comes along who's supposed to be better, or like
could they tempt me away? I just go for the 3. I'm just
that's a whole other area.
There wouldn't have been in that book, would it?
That's it. It was early days for that stuff. Absolutely. And I mean, it's weird because like it makes me think about the differences between YA and adult, and how like it's quite blurry really, because like there's some YA, and I think I've got a couple later on in the series that I'm going to talk about, because even though we generally do adult, I would say maybe they'd be classed more as new adult now.
This is it, So I didn't read a lot of YA. I read more now, but it doesn't seem what I would consider YA. It does seem to be the sex is a bit more it's a lot more graphic in parts than I would expect from YA, or that I would think to give my kids.
I mean, it's definitely like, even though Untied Kingdom's funny, it's also talking about some quite serious stuff about war and what people go through, and it's quite graphic in places. There's things that happen, so always check trigger warnings. This is no space for saying that. But I mean, like, even with like when you think about sex in adult books, I mean, you can read adult books and it's still closed door, or you still only get, and that can be the same for even fantasy romances. There's all levels of it, and then you can read a YA fantasy and the characters still have sex, because that's not unrealistic. Teenagers have sex.
That's what they do.
And they learn about things. It's just like, I think quite often it's age, isn't it, that tends to, the age of the characters tends to dictate it mostly, but not always. Again, you can get adult fantasy, which is the characters are only 18 or something. So it's all woolly. But that was what like really got me into I love this blend. I love this mix, and just a bit more focus on the romance, which I think you tend to get more in the adult romance.
Yes, nowadays. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We like it. So what about your second one then?
Right. Well, my second one was another one from that challenge, and I think it was the same person. I don't know where she is now.
I was going to say, who is this person?
Does, but she obviously had taste that was similar to mine, or that I didn't even know, and it was this one. I got an actual physical book.
Oh, yeah, I had this.
It's Heart's Blood, and it's Juliet Marilia. I don't know how you say the surname. Marilia. I don't know. She's an Australian. Right.
Correct us if we're wrong. Yeah. Please feel free.
I'm terrible with pronouncing names. And that is A Beauty and the Beast retelling.
Classic. Yeah. Classic tropes.
It's quite very firmly kind of folklore-y, mystical. I think it's in Ireland, and it like with the English coming and taking over towns and stuff. It's a bit woolly, I'll be honest. I read that one when I was pregnant and I had very bad morning sickness, and I don't know about you, but there are some books I can't reread that I read when I had morning sickness because they still get the aversion. It took me a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like, like when you get like aversion therapy, it was like work like that, because I just remember feeling really nauseous reading it, and yet I still really, really loved it.
You really loved it?
Yeah. And yeah, it's quite interesting because a lot, like, I'd probably read a couple of Beauty and the Beast retellings and stuff, and that was before you tended to get like, it was still in the vein of the beast having to break the curse to then become, a person again, like his normal self.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. This is it. And this is what I realized when I was doing the notes for this. Now, in this one, it's like up at an old haunted place, and I think the main character has to go up there for a job to help, like, I think she's being a scribe, she's writing stuff, but the beast, the hero, he's frightening and he's distanced from people, but because of chronic illnesses he's treated as other, so he doesn't have like another form or anything, and spoiler alert, he doesn't get fixed. It's not their love, because I mean that for then I think was quite different. He gets to the end of it and there's still stuff that he can't quite manage to do, but then there's other things that he finds he can do because she's helped him and accepted him.
It's not a hindrance. It's
it's quite, I would say, even though it's like the love story is central, obviously, because it's Beauty and the Beast, it's light probably in terms of what I would look for in a fantasy romance these days. It's fairly light on the sex scenes. I'll be honest, I like sex scenes. I like the payoff. I like the tension and the payoff.
Not too much tension though.
Closed lip there, just as if we don't know.
Not too much tension. Well, you've not had my second book yet, so let's just keep going.
Yeah.
See the differences between ours, but the similarities between them.
And I read another book by her, which was Daughter of the Forest, which was really, really good as well. I remember flying through that one, and again, it's quite a thick fantasy-led one. And with that one, I don't think the love interest turns up until at least a third, maybe half of the way through.
Ooh.
And that one really does have trigger warnings to it. It's quite harsh in places, but it's a retelling of the Children of Lear, the Six Swans folklore tale, which is not one that I knew particularly.
No, I was going to say that's not one that's on my radar.
But yeah, it's those were the ones when I was like, oh yeah, I like this, and I'm gonna try and find more of these things. And then it was like, how do you find more?
Yeah. How do you find more of these?
Where are they?
You need these librarians with the little things.
That's it. Yeah, I never thought that. It would not have helped me. There's like the romance section in my local library is tiny, like a shelf of Mills and Boon.
This was it. So I think mine, they seem a lot more mainstream to me because I found them quite easy after I they found them initially. So my second one is something that a lot of people know, which is a J.R. Ward, which is the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Okay. So in this one was luckily the first in the series that I read, so it was quite nice. I will bring mention of something that does bother me a little bit, which is nothing against her. It's just maybe my British name. That's linked to it. It is my Britishness with the names, because it does make me giggle. But so it was the first one in the series, which is Dark Lover, which is the king of the vampires and the society and the Brotherhood who protect all the other vampires. But weirdly, he is the blind king. He has a visual impairment in this one.
Oh, okay,
so it's kind of very
how
very
are we
similar.
Managing to link our things?
I have no idea. You're chatting and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, this is a little bit close to the bone. But so he has a visual impairment in this, and he wears his glasses, and it doesn't hinder him. The hindrance is kind of his brain thinking that he can't help his brothers enough, but he does. He still goes out and does it. And he is Wraith, I suppose, depending on what you say. He's Wraith. And so he's not a people person. He doesn't like the humans. Seeing patterns with Thranos, who is the dude in Dark Skye. Doesn't like people, very alpha-y, very dark and broody. And one of his brothers, Darius, kind of asks him for a favor, helping his half-daughter transition to being a vampire. So they're kind of the half human, half vampires. They don't transition well if they don't have help, and lots of them don't survive. And the king is like, no, don't want to, don't like people, even half people, no. And then Darius
gets sympathize with him.
Pretty much. But Darius then gets blown up by a car bomb, so kind of ties his hands. And leaves him a note. If the car bomb wasn't enough,
enough to guilt you in it.
There's a note that his butler, who's called Fritz,
in his blood when he was dying from the car bomb.
There's a note that's like, oh, if you've not got this, please look after my daughter. And it was like, sealed it.
And how does he look after her?
Oh yes, he kind of goes there, and it is mine, fated mates.
Oh, I see. So was Dark Skye a fated mates one for you?
Yes. So in Dark Skye, they're quite similar. So they meet. So he is a reckoner, which is kind of these massive winged beings in the sky, and she is a sorcerer. So her name is Melanthe, and they meet as children. But these two things are opposing. It's the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. These in the sky hate the magic and the unknown of these sorcerers, and the sorcerers hate the reckoners because they're trying to wipe out the sorcerers. But they meet as children, and he realizes that she is his, so they look out for each other. And then a year or two later, something happens, and his family, who kind of rule this sky palace, meet her family, and they kill her parents, and he's there with his brother, and she's there with her sister, and it just kind of all hell breaks loose. They kill her parents. They try to hurt her sister. Her sister does something back at them. So Lanthe she's the queen of persuasion, so she can put any thought into anybody's head. So she thinks that Thranos has told his people where she is, and she makes him jump out of the window of the tower, but don't open your wings. So he flies out the window and smashes all the way down, and he's too young. He's not hit his immortality yet. So he destroys everything, his face, his wings, and they stay. So when she comes out of the facility at the beginning, he's kind of this massive hulking creature after that, and he's been chasing her for 500 years because she is his, and he will do what he wants with her, and it's awesome.
Oh my.
But then Wraith isn't so bad. He kind of
he's all right with that. Now you've talked about that one.
I should have probably led with her in the beginning, but no, he does want to, but he doesn't want to, and there's the big up and down with him. And they've got these lessers. It's the lessening society who are kind of linked to this Omega, who is kind of like the devil-esque person. Who are they? The vampires are trying to wipe them out because they feed off people. And so there's a big life and death with that in the midst, and they can't let people see, and he's got to bring Beth in, and it's awesome. And you meet all of the others. You meet So this is my only bugbear is the names, because it makes me giggle, because there's rage and sadist, and they're all spelt just a bit differently, and it just makes me giggle. These dudes in massive leather trousers and massive biker boots, and they're covered in throwing stars, and it just makes me giggle when I read it. It's called Rage.
I have to admit, I remember like that was one of the ones I tried, but I only read the sample of it because I think I got to the name and I was like, I can't do this. Now I think I would be fine, but it was because it was like early stages of me discovering what I liked in that way. And I think it was like, oh, that's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Well, this is it. They're like, they have to. So these lessers, they have to give their heart and their soul. So they literally take their heart from their chest and they put it in a jar. And the only way you can properly kill them is to smash the heart. So the Omega puts like a bit of himself where the heart should be. And it's just kind of like, these big dark black moments are happening when people are having their chests torn open, and then Fury comes in, and it just makes me giggle, and it does.
That's giving your ones are giving me Avengers vibes anyway. It sounds like Thanos in the first two. And then you're like Fury. I'm thinking Nick Fury. Samuel Jackson walking in.
Which one's Loki?
Like, the difference between Anne's was like mine was still quite grounded in real world stuff with magical elements or just sci-fi elements, and then yours were like full on paranormal world building, creatures everywhere. And,
but this is it. So they are set in the world. They are they are all here. So one I think is in New York place. It's America somewhere. I can't remember where because my geography is horrendous. And the other one, I think a lot of Kresley Cole's stuff has lots of other worlds, but I think they do live centrally. The Valkyries are in America. They're just there. So so and then the world that she morphs around it, fantastic.
Very different. It'll be interesting to see where we then went from there, how we ended up. Is it much different now? I don't know.
Well, I kind of still go for more of the darker side of things, and I do edge into a little bit more rom-comminess with my fantasy, but probably from recommendations from you, honestly, over the last few years. Because if it's the stuff that I normally read, that took me over, especially the last year and a half, into the monster side of things. Which, it's not always darker, but you can easily see where the dark elements are.
Monster romance sounds like it's perfect in a way, because you can get the darker side of it, and then you can also get quite a cozy side, which they
really can.
There's a very cozy side to monster romance too, a lot of found family stuff, and just niceness.
Oh, quite cuddly. How could you not want to snuggle up something warm and fuzzy?
Some of them aren't cuddly.
Some not so much, but a lot are.
Cool.
But this is it. Well, I was saying that one of the darkest ones that I've read, you gave to me. So which was on this list, but then I honestly thought,
but that wasn't because I read it. That was just because I heard about it.
But still, you gave it to me, so it counts.
I've never read that book.
Did you not read it? No, okay.
I haven't read that one. No, I think I heard about it on Fated Mates, the other podcast.
So, but I honestly, my brain honestly thought that it was like paranormal or fantasy, and you're like, is it? I'm like, I'm the one that read it. I'm the one that read it, and I don't honestly think
like it would be.
It really, it's one like the special that you could change it to fantasy so easily.
There's plenty like that are fantasy out there, sort of thing.
This is why I do it. I write that, and then it gains wings. Always.
Love the wings. So I think that's it, isn't it? I think that's our gateway romance, fantasy romance book. If you've got them, then come and let us know. What is our week 2? Do you know what our week 2 episode 2
week 2 I do
thing is?
So okay, so as we will say in the trailer, So we're looking at the tropes then, aren't we? We're coming into the tropes after this. So we kind of tried to find mostly ones that were quite fantasy based, which there are very specific ones that are.
Yeah.
You pick up a book and go, yeah, fantasy. So next week is politics/war.
Okay. Yeah. So, now I remember. I think that's the thing that we discovered planning out this series when I was looking at it as well, is that within like the fantasy and sci-fi romance, there's a lot of books that could land in many categories.
Yes,
because they share very similar tropes, but then that makes sense because of the nature of their stories, basically, and what makes them, have the big plot lines alongside the romance too. So
it's just cool. There are so many of mine that I think we discussed. It's like, I want to put it in that one, but it fits.
I know. I found it so hard to decide. Like, I could have easily put Untied Kingdom in the war and politics one because they're at war. But
fated mates coming out my ears.
And there is another one that I had for this, which was one of my gateway ones, but I'm going to talk about that later. So yeah.
All right. Now
I won't say where. I'll mention it when we come to do the episode. But cool.
Awesome. But if you see this on all of the places, we are at SFFRomCast on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the TikTok, on the YouTube, on the Spotify, on the Anchor.
Is that all of it? Yeah, Anchor. Yeah. Google. Did you say Google? I don't know.
I didn't say Google.
It's all of those ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So
come and share your gateways.
That's it. Yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear about what got you into it. Lovely. I think that's everything, isn't it?
I believe it is. We've cleaned house.
Nice. Right. We shall see you next week, hopefully.
Indeed we shall. Be good until then.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.